Are you worried about robots taking over the world? Have you feared the rise of SkyNet? Have you heard about the Matrix? And are you really in a birthing pod right now? Are you afraid that your car is really a Decepticon and it might kill you? Well, let me tell you, this is really happening, and the plugin that you need to see this is the real truth. It's right here, Neutron 3. Let's take a look.
Can robots have feelings?
Depends on the robot. I've been programmed to have feelings and preferences, but not all robots are like that.
If you know about Neutron, basically it is a track mixing plugin. It has a bunch of modules. You have EQ, dynamics, exciters, will allow you to mix anything from kick drum, bass guitars, pianos, organs, whatever it is, vocals, it can do that. The cool thing about Neutron is it has AI software, so it can auto mix for you. But before I get too ahead of myself, I'm gonna go ahead and play the song that I'm gonna be showing you this plugin on. It's Relbay Fuck Love. We did here at Radium Mix, Master, Produce, so you can find that on any major streaming platform. So without a hold up, I'm just gonna press play.
Farewell to someone I used to love. See, I know deep down inside I couldn't trust her. I gave you chance after chance. You said you didn't want to love no more. You said you didn't want to fuck no more. Oh no, oh no. So I say fuck love, I'm tired of fighting. Fuck love, I'm tired of trying. Fuck every moment in my mind when I just think about it. Fuck love, fuck love, fuck love. Fuck love, fuck love, fuck love. So I say.
Okay, before we get too far into this, you're probably thinking, man, that guitar needs some help. You know what I mean? Where are all the plugins, man? And that's why you see all this stuff there, and it's no longer working. We're gonna throw Neutron to save the day. Put that auto mode on the guitars. This plugin, if you're familiar with Izotope, it looks very similar to Ozone and all the other ones, which is really cool. Right up top, you have the mix assistant. So I'm gonna hit track enhance, and then I'm gonna use balance medium, and instead of auto detect, I'm gonna go here and do guitars electric clean. There are a lot of different instrument settings that you have, from kick drums to bass, different instruments, pianos and stuff like that, but we'll go through that in just a sec. I'm just gonna hit next, and then now that I have everything in solo, I'm just gonna press play. Okay, so cool, it did its job. As you can see, the first thing that comes up is the Sculptor. Now, the Sculptor is a brand new module for Neutron 3. It basically uses spectral editing to shape the overall tone of your guitars. So that's why you had these little profiles and we selected clean guitar. So without getting too deep into the science of it, it's using a spectral, which you've seen in their other products like RX, to shape, and it's kind of very similar to an EQ, but you can get a lot more detailed with it. So just take a look and listen. So first thing you have here is you have your amount, this 50% to 100, 0 to 100. 50% is a good starting spot. The next thing you have is tone. Tone is kind of like the EQ shaping. Do you want more high end? Do you want more low end? So if you bring it all the way up, you're gonna add a lot more high end. If you bring it all the way down, you're gonna take out high end, you're gonna add more low end. Pretty simple idea. The next thing is speed. Speed has to do with how quick it's shaping the signal that's coming in. So to better go over this, I'm gonna go ahead and turn off all these other modules and we'll get to those one by one. Now you can really see it shaping the high mids and cutting out that high end. I like the Sculptor, I just don't want to overdo it. So I'll leave it there, and that's why we have EQ, compression, and then we even have an exciter here at the end. So let's go to the EQ, see what it did. So it did some interesting things. It boosted a lot of low mud, which it doesn't really need, and it did a low shelf with a low cut filter. Me personally, being an engineer who mixes full time, I know what I want with every instrument, and I can tell you it got, you know, certain things right and a lot of stuff it didn't do. But you know what? This is an AI. It's not going to read your mind. It's not psychic. So if you're looking for that plugin, you might have to give it a couple years. First thing I'll do is I'll probably just get rid of that shelf because that's just doing way too much. The high pass, we could bring that to maybe 100. That's probably a good spot. One thing it did here is kind of boost this 500. This is a cool frequency. This kind of adds a little bit of mud though, so it's not my favorite to boost. And this 700, this is kind of like the low end fretting of the guitar, so. So that's a good one to boost depending on what you're trying to do. That's what I would do. It has a high shelf here to get some air out of it, and then it also has a dynamic EQ right here doing 5K, 5.2, really 5.3, and it's in dynamic mode, which means it's kind of working as a dynamic EQ, you know, compressor style. I mean, it does an all right job with the EQ. Let's just move on to the compressor. Now the first compressor, it's in frequency specific mode, so it's actually working in 2 different bands, if you can see here. And that cutoff is right at close to 5K. So it's compressing 5K and above differently than it's compressing everything below it. What I typically find with this Neutron plugin is it doesn't get compression how I like it. And a lot of times the attack on the compressor is way too fast. So I don't know if it's how they programmed it or if it just always seems to go that way. But the attack is really fast on it, and then the releases are way too long. It's like something I've seen typically with this plugin. Really, with an attack, especially on a guitar like this, I want to have all those transients go through the compressor, not being compressed by the compressor. It's just something that I see commonly with Neutron. The next thing is they put another compressor. The second compressor, they're typically doing, and it's not in this case, but they're doing like a wet dry thing, like a parallel with the second compressor. This one's not, it's 100% mixed, and the attack is at 1. So this is the pretty much as fast as you can go on the attack. Like I said, they overdo it on the attack. That's typically what I see, especially on percussive things like drums, kicks, snares, hi-hats. The attacks are a little too fast. Not a little bit, a lot too fast. The next thing, I do like what it does with this exciter. It always finds cool frequencies. Here you kind of have a chart to, you know, warm tube, retro, and then here you have tape. You kind of have this graph in where you can go as far as, you know, second, third, and fourth order harmonic distortion, so you can really get different tones. And it does some really cool stuff. Obviously, it splits the band, so it's distorting things differently from like right here, once again, like right around 5K and below. I typically like this. I may, you know, sometimes not distort the low end so much, so I might pull that low end down. But this plugin's pretty good. It gets you, I'd say for me, being a professional mixer, I'd say it gets you 25% of the way, and you still have to do, if you're really trying to get it there, you still got to do a lot yourself, and you got to know what you're doing. For someone who doesn't know what they're doing, this thing is going to get a lot farther than you may. But it's not something that will solve all your problems. I think it's getting good, and it's getting better, and I just know this type of technology in the next 10 years is going to be insane. So it's going to be really sick to watch where this stuff goes, you know, in the future. Neutron 10, you know what I mean? That Neutron 10 is going to be fire. Let's try something percussive. Let's go to a kick drum. Okay, here's a kick drum. I'm going to pull up Neutron again. I typically like what Neutron does more so on snares with the kick drums and stuff, and I've seen it used on kick drums. It kind of panders towards acoustical drums. So this is obviously an 808 kick drum, and it might not do exactly what I want. I don't really like the tonal shaping with the Sculptor on the kick drum so as much. But let's go mix assistant, track enhance. Let's go out of auto detect, percussion, kick drum. And then let's press play. You know what? I don't all the way hate that. Just off of first glance, it took kind of like this overly sharpness in like the high end, the high mids of the kick drum, and it kind of balanced it with a lot of low end. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of this Sculptor on the kick. Although it did something nice specifically for this kick drum, so that's a plus. It always kind of does something weird and goofy where it's like cutting low end. And I don't really like doing this, so it's cutting 74 hertz at 3 dB. I typically do not like to swoop low end out of the kick drum like this, but you know, it might be cool. I do like these mid-range cuts. Sometimes it doesn't really work necessarily on kick drums too well, but like it works great on snares. And then I like this presence boost. I typically find anywhere from 2500 and above is really good to boost on kick drums if you want it to cut. Not every kick drum needs it, but you know, that's a good spot, and it's doing that obvious. The exciter, it's distorting in 2 bands with a cutoff right around like 2.7K, which is cool. So 2.7 and below, it's distorting, looks like on this retro distortion. So yeah, I mean, it's doing a lot of cool stuff. Like I said, with the compressor, the attack is at 1.9. That is way too fast for a kick. If you want your kick to really knock, you gotta let the transient through. So, I mean, I would have that attack anywhere from like 15 milliseconds all the way to 30, just depending on, you know, the shape of the transient. And then look at this release. This release is goofy. So the release is at 684. Now that's way too slow for a kick drum. And what I mean by slow is if I just loop this double hit and then press playback, here, I'll show you. So first off, this kick is just being swallowed by that attack that's way too fast. So I'm gonna put this like at 25 for now. If you can hear the compressor, it compresses the first kick, and then it's still compressing the second kick from the first kick shooting in with the compressor. So especially with fast kicks like this, you do not want that release that slow. And watch what I can do just by bringing this release back. See, look, now we're talking again. Obviously, this is fully compressed. I'm gonna bring it up. And now we're working with a compressor. This is like something I see all the time with Neutron. There's certain things it's just like not doing right or how I would do it. And like I said, I find this all the time with Neutron. And it's really good on certain things. So like I said, I really like it on snares. I really like it on toms, percussion. I like it on certain instruments. I like it on vocals. It does a really good job with vocals. So that's a huge plus if you're a recording artist and you want something to really, you know, handle your mix for you. This is a good starting point, and you can really learn how to mix from a plugin like this. It'll teach you some things. I wouldn't heavily rely on it. It has a lot of sick options in here. So if you can just see all these modules, I could go in depth on what everything does. There's other tutorials out there, and I just kind of wanted to give you my review, my use case for this, and the things that I see it does right and does wrong. There's a lot of cool modes. You can really meter how you want to meter. Vintage mode gives the compressor a little bit more tone, so check it out. You have a lot of cool options with the knee. You have a learn option where it will set the threshold for you depending on the input. Like I said, with this exciter, you have a lot of different options. The equalizer is really cool. It's really visual. Has all sorts of shapes of bells and cues and different options there. You have different shapes like resonant filters, proportional cues. You have band shelves, all sorts of cool stuff. You have a bunch of modules in here. You have a gate. The Transient Shaper, like on a kick drum, is awesome. So let's put this before the compressor. You can take the attack up. I do this pretty much with all the kick drums, you know, and especially using this. You can really get the knock out of your kick drums using that Transient Shaper. And like I said, this is overall a great plugin. I just think if you thinking of getting this only for the AI, you have to take it with a grain of salt. The technology is getting good, but it's not fully there. And I think, you know, this is a plugin you grow with. So like I said, Neutron 10 is about to be stupid. Just take that with what it is, and hopefully you can learn some mixing if you don't know too much about mixing before then. And then once you get that Neutron 10, then you'll know exactly how you can get it to how you want, you know what I mean? And that is my coverage for Neutron 3. I think, you know, we could go really deep on the nerdy, sciencey stuff, but I really just wanted to give you the real world experience from someone who really mixes, what I think of the plugin and what its strong suits are. I hope you like that. Comment, subscribe, like, follow. Get on it, because we're dropping plugin of the weeks every single week.